that on? No one told me.
We could hear you.
Safety message, April is Distracted Driver Awareness Month. Some tips for that is pull over. If you need to use your phone, text, or do anything that takes your attention away from driving, please pull over to a safe location and park before doing so. Always remember to focus on the road, avoid engaging in activities that take your eyes off the road or your hands off the wheel. Another tip is be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention to traffic, pedestrians, students, since we're in a school-related function, and other potential hazards. And then also, the last safety message for Distracted Driver Awareness Month is to take breaks. If you're driving long distances, take breaks to rest and stay alert. So thanks, Commissioner Paul, for those April Safety Distracted Driver Awareness tips, now that you're present.
You can just keep going.
All right, let's go to 1.3 as she gets settled. Motion to adopt the April 7th, 2025 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously 4-0.
Gretchen, I can't get on, so I'm still logging on my phone now. No, you said it. You can't get on. Nope. It's just for voting, but I can see everything on here. Okay.
All right, we'll go to 1.4, Franklin Middle School, 6th grade PLC presentation. Kurt Krieger.
I will keep it short. I met with Mr. Krieger a few months ago on a school visit, and we were talking about just in general, what was going on at Franklin, and we were talking about a lot of the work we've been doing with common summative assessments and with our professional learning communities. And he said, "Hey, I just got to tell you, we just had an amazing 6th grade experience." And he walked me through the whole thing, and he showed me some information. And within the next week or so, I was in Superintendent Holzman's office, and I said, "Hey, I really think the board should hear about things like this," and showed him the same information. And he said, he goes, "Yeah, I think that would be good." And so you've heard us talk at PPC about professional learning communities. You've heard us talk about some of the work we're doing to everything from increased student learning to increased student test scores. And this presentation really speaks to, well, what does that look like? And instead of having to hear it from me, you're going to hear from the folks who are actually doing the work. So, Mr. Krieger.
Well, all right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. As Chris said, I'm Kurt Krieger, the principal at Franklin Middle School, and it's my honor to introduce, as they kind of come on up here, Stephanie Schley, our academic learning coach, Adam Launick, who is our 6th grade ELA teacher, Jesse Ramirez, our 6th grade ELA teacher, and Amanda Yermansky, who is our teacher of students with disabilities. We're here to celebrate. We've got some good news, and we kind of want to share our process and raise up our Franklin Middle School students. And this is one story of what is happening at Franklin. Just to kind of ground ourselves, these are our school improvement plan goals, and while you're going to hear some different data, this is what we're shooting for. We've got data on all of these, but we're specifically talking about a 3% raise in our ELA scores from the spring of 2024 to the assessment that we just had took. So knowing that our time is short, I am turning it over to Mrs. Schley.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and set the stage just a little bit. So last year was our first year of implementation for our new ELA curriculum. And in that first year, you're working through the text, the skills, kind of the pacing. And then after the unit is done, you kind of give that common summative assessment, the CSA, kind of see where the kids are at. The teachers had done that. They're kind of like doing some reteaching. They had done some follow-up, but we really didn't have great data to know what were students really struggling with. And so this year we developed something called a backwards design process, where we look at that CSA, we break down the standards, we break down lesson objectives, the skills, vocabulary, all of those things, and have a conversation about it. And then after the CSA, we look at the data and we really dive into some of that data. So that was kind of part of our process. And the team that I was working with had a unique opportunity. So Jesse had been through the year one implementation, so he knew what worked and didn't. Adam, kind of fresh new eyes, kind of new this year. And Amanda came partway through the year last year. So she was familiar with the HMH, but hadn't done this unit. So we really all came together. And the team, super strong in moving kids forward because they talk about our kids. It's not your kids and my kids, but they really have a strong sense of our kids. And so the team implemented that first unit, gave that first CSA, and I'm going to turn it over to Amanda.
Thanks. So we give the first CSA and we are stoked. Like they're going to do awesome. The kids are going to do great. We've been planning. We meet at least 2 or 3 times a week to do ELA planning. We're ready to go. The students take the assessment. We think they're ready to go, and we get the results back. And what we found is that at that time, 19% of our students scored an A, B, or C on that assessment. As an educator, those are hard numbers to swallow. I think that we took a lot of time as a team, really reflecting on what happened. We thought our students were ready to go. We had done really, everything that we thought we could do to teach that, and it was a really vulnerable moment, I think, for our team, of what do we do to move forward? Like, why are we getting these results? Here's what we did the process, and so then we really went through and looked at what are things that should not change, and then what do we need to change? And so we started with what shouldn't change, what absolutely are those non-negotiables. And so we're gonna keep the backwards design process. That process works. We just didn't maybe see the results we wanted to see and needed to look at why that was. Those priority standards, what the 6th grade state standards are, going to stay the same. We're not changing those and continue to do that. The common summative assessment that's given at Edison, that's given at Marshall, that's given at Franklin is the exact same. We're not changing the assessment. We're doing the same test and getting ready for the second assessment. What do we need to do to be able to see different results? And then lastly, not lowering those expectations. I think anytime that you see maybe that students weren't successful on something, then do we need to change what we're expecting from students? And our answer as a team was absolutely not. Students need to be able to do this, and what can we do as educators to have a greater impact on improving and increasing that academic achievement? And so what we did as a team then, I'm gonna talk just a little bit about the first one, and then I'll hand it over to Adam Launick, but the first piece that we looked at, our HMH curriculum has different selection texts in it. So for Unit 3 was the first unit that we taught, and they just have different readings in them. Some of them are poetry, some of them are informational texts, some of them are narrative texts, and we go through them and we were teaching to the priority standards that were identified through that backwards design. And then when we got the results that we got, we're like, we need to rethink this and look at it differently. And so what we did is we looked at the priority standards for the next unit that we were going to teach. And then we took those and went deeper into the resource because it was new to Adam and myself, and really looked at what are the resources that are available, and then taught those skills explicitly. So took the priority standards, made sure we explicitly taught the skill, and then we used the selection text through the HMH curriculum to be able to have students apply and generalize those skills. So let's teach it in isolation. Let's teach it to make sure they really got it and understand it by explicitly teaching it, and then let's see if they can apply it and do that through the selection text. So then we went ahead and did that for that next unit, trying to see what would happen. And then Adam's gonna talk a little bit more about some of the other things that we shifted and changed as a team. And then we'll share what those results were after we made those changes. We'll do that one, so.
Oh, yes.
So another big part of our kind of shift when we were using this backwards design process is that part of that backwards design process is you take a look at the common summative assessment that you want to know, like, what is the product the students are supposed to be able to deliver at the end of a unit of study. And obviously we're not sort of, teaching directly to a test, but we want to know what is the level of rigor that students are expected to be able to kind of achieve at to show mastery of those standards at the end of a unit. So we did a lot of time, or spent a lot of time looking at what, like, sort of how the items were going to be assessing students, and then not just kind of understanding, what is the main idea of this passage, but how does it talk about main idea, and how does that look at a 6th grade level as opposed to what they were expected to do at a 5th grade level. And so we spent a lot of time looking at the level of rigor of those questions, and then making sure that we were taking the time we needed to kind of build students up to that level of rigor. Because like Amanda mentioned, we didn't see that kind of mastery of things at the end of our first unit. So we wanted to spend our time kind of making sure that we knew exactly what types of things students were going to be asked to do, and then kind of working towards that. And I think an example of the sort of analysis that we did looking at that first CSA and kind of using these common summative assessments as a resource is we spent some time looking at the questions, and like, again, we were kind of in that moment of disappointment, like, what did students do? And we saw, oh, well, there are these kind of claim and evidence questions that come up a lot on ELA assessments. And our students, if we just looked at the kind of raw numbers, oh, they didn't do very well on those claim and evidence assessments. But when we really took the time to look at them in depth, what we found was students were actually very good at identifying evidence. They could find evidence to support claims that they wanted to make, but unfortunately they weren't always making the right claims. So, and we could see that when we looked in depth at the questions, we could see, well, I can see why they chose this piece of evidence to support this distractor, but they picked the distractor when they were choosing the answer. And so we're sort of able to see, okay, our process around teaching evidence was working, like, because students were able to align evidence to things they wanted to say and claims they wanted to make, but they weren't necessarily kind of solid in making those claims. And so that was where, again, that focus on skills kind of taught, like teaching those skills in isolation so students had a really strong grasp on what is theme and what is theme when I'm thinking about it at these kind of more rigorous levels that middle school demands of them. And so what that allowed us to do then was to see, okay, so how do we use their knowledge that they already have of finding evidence to help support their understanding of those skills. So the backwards design process and really digging into the assessments allowed us to kind of understand what things students were struggling with and how we could use what they already knew to help support in those things that they maybe needed some additional help with. And like Amanda mentioned, the HMH resource is really great. We're happy with it as a curriculum. But what we kind of realized was that we had to spend more time digging into some of the supplemental materials, because if you just sort of follow the teacher edition as it appears to be written, there are some things that just get left untaught, or things that maybe don't close gaps the way that we need to close them. And so we really spent a lot of time kind of going into the weeds and like into the deep, dark depths of the HMH website. And that helped us find supplemental materials that we could use and kind of develop routines around teaching some of these skills explicitly. And so after all of this kind of work and analysis, we had students do a mid-unit assessment that was based on the HMH curriculum that allowed us to kind of compare the first unit, which was a fictional test, to our mid-unit, and student scores increased dramatically. And we felt really good about our process. And then by the time we got to our CSA 2, so that the second common summative assessment they were taking, we saw that the number of students who were scoring A, B, or C tripled. And there were a whole lot of them that were really close to that C. So we felt really, really good about those results. And we felt like our process was really helping students kind of move forward on these CSAs. But then Mr. Krieger is also going to talk about how one thing that we were really excited about was we wanted to also know, did these skills generalize? Like, are these things that they can then take and apply to things that aren't aligned to the curriculum necessarily? And that's what Mr. Krieger is going to jump in and talk about.
Yes, they were very excited. It's not often that the principal's asked to come into the PLT and say, can you look at these results and what we've gotten? And the celebration that they were having with our students was pretty inspiring of the work that we are doing. This is even more. I don't want to say it's more inspiring. It's equally as inspiring, and I think it really shows the depth and the impact that this is happening. So we started to look at the data a little differently. I put the definition of a percentile rank up there, but basically what we're operating under is a percentile rank increase equals a closing of achievement gap. Now we're looking at STAR data, and the STAR data that was taken in the fall to the STAR assessment taken in the fall to the STAR assessment taken in the winter. So we've got two tests. how are they doing? If we're seeing it on the CSAs in class, are we going to see it on another assessment? And that is exactly what we're starting to see. So we had a 58% of the students were increasing their percentile rank growth. First good sign. Now we start to look a little bit deeper. The second one is, well, what is their average? So if we take all of the sixth graders who had a fall score and a winter score, and we look at what their average percentile rank was in the fall, it was 39.2. And what was it in the winter? It was 43.6, so a 4.4 percentile rank gain on average. So then I say, well, maybe that's what we always do. So through NextPath, we can dig in a little deeper. Same type of thing. The first one looked at it and says, well, in the past, or 23 to 24, fall to winter, same group of kids. So we're comparing apples to apples. We had, was that like 53%? And now we're at 58%. So 5% more than in the past of these same kids are increasing their percentile rank.
Can I interrupt you with just a question?
Please.
So this is their star data going back the last couple of years, not sixth graders going
Correct.
back. Okay, so their unique data.
Yep,
Okay.
so if you look, yeah, if you were to look at the list, yeah, you're gonna, these are the same kids, 23, 24, and 24, 25.
That group each year, you're seeing a growth.
Correct.
That's really nice to see that.
Well, just wait, it gets even better.
More excited.
Well, wait, I saw people kind of already kind of peeking ahead. So that same group, what does that look like? They averaged 2.6 as fifth graders, the 4.4 this year. So I'm like, well, what about some of these groups? The target group, which is huge for Franklin as it relates to a school report card score. Sorry about the box there. 3.1 to 4.2. So the target group, which counts a lot on our school report card, is now showing growth on a nationally normed assessment. Our students with disabilities doubled and surpassed 3.1 to 6.7. Our English learners, they went down a little bit. You might wonder why I put this in here. It's important because we know. We didn't necessarily have this data last year with the backwards design process. Well, we had it, but we weren't looking at it the same way or kind of knew where we needed to put our focus. So while the majority of this is really, really good, there's still one thing like, oh, okay, what's happening here? And we do have some ideas on what's happening there as well. So if we look at everything, just kind of summarizing those last slides, are they transferring these skills? Absolutely, they're transferring these skills. We have 92 students that are increasing their percentile rank with a 4.4 percentile rank gain for all students, a 4.2 percentile rank gain for students within the target group, 6.7 for our students with disabilities, and it's and there's still a gain for our EL students. And then they did something even neater with these kids.
So our students did amazing, and it's cool to celebrate it in a boardroom, but it was even cooler to get to celebrate it in the classroom, to recognize this landmark in their academic careers, that regardless of what they've done in the past or what people have expected of them, this is something that cannot be taken away from them and something that is worth celebrating. So we put a pause in our routines, in our plans, and we took a day to recognize and celebrate with these kids, to create, hopefully, I believe, a moment, a memory that can kind of establish this culture of success and achievement and just community as we gather around and we create good memories around tests and assessment, things that many of us in this room get excited about, but many of our students do not. So it was really something humbling to be a part of such an amazing group, but the students, the work that they put in, it was just great to be a part of. So we put out some posters and gave them out, shared it with the parents, and lots of celebrating, and that just a good thing. I'm running out of things to say, but it was great.
I'll save you, Jesse.
Thank you.
So that's kind of the process that we are at right now. I mean, the results are kind of like maintaining where the past results. We took the forward exam. We're certainly going to be looking at that. It's good data. It's not in-time data. It's delayed data. So we need things like the STAR assessment or whatever it is we're going to next year, and our CSAs to really keep us on track and moving forward and giving us something to celebrate and feel good about, and most importantly, providing success for many of our students who may not necessarily have felt that in the past. So we're here for any questions that you may have.
Well, first of all, I don't know if you noticed, but when the last presenter got up, I almost got teary-eyed. I had to look away, because I think that's wonderful stuff. I did, I had to look away, or look up, so the tears don't run down. Because I think that's great that you celebrated with your students. I probably already know the answer to this, but I hope you celebrated within the school of this accomplishment and lessons learned, and maybe sharing that with other teachers within Franklin about your process. I mean, I'm sure you do that, but just for the audience, do you share that with other teams so that they can,
Yeah.
because they don't have to reinvent the wheel? I see, she's shaking her head, yeah, so.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, so I sit in on a lot of the PLCs, and so this story is out throughout the school. So a lot of people are really excited, and actually other staff members have been like, can we see how our students have grown? Can we really look at some of that data? And has actually asked Mr. Krieger as well, can you pull our STAR data and look at what our growth is? And so some teachers are getting really excited about some of that growth, or digging in a lot deeper because they want to see that same growth. So it's been really exciting to see as a whole building.
Well, it just sounds like you did you dug deeper into those, the website, to find additional supplemental things. I mean, you would think other people would do that, but don't make that like a little known secret. I mean, share it to the hilt of some of the things that you've done as educators, because that's one of the things as a past educator that I really appreciated. Whether you went to conferences or others, you learned from other people. So you obviously have a vast amount of learning that you would want to share just internally as well. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, the story is still being told, and this success builds on the next success. It's going to be the same group of kids that are coming to us in seventh grade. We got them achieving now. Like, why can't this just keep building and building and building? Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this great work and sharing it. And I would just kind of, along with what Lisa was saying, sorry, the sharing of these best practices is something I really hope is happening, not even just within your school, but within our district and other middle schools. And the focus that you had on the celebration is so good, and because then it encourages the students, like, hey, they do care, they are recognizing when I improve. This was the first year, I would think, Miss Rainham at Marshall, she had us, as parents, got to send a letter to our student, encouraging them that as Forward just kicked off, and then they got a copy of them, and then also posting encouragement kind of signs and posters around the house. So there'd be another little, like, sharing, small little gesture, but it shows the kids, mom and dad know, mom and dad believe in you, or whoever it is, a guardian. So anyway, I love this sharing across the school. Thank you.
Well, and one student with the Way to Grow, so from Jesse, thanks, sorry. It was a student with a disability, but I had, they were on my caseload, so we took a picture of the student, sent it to their parent, and their parent, the student was on the email, so then replied and said, can you send it to my 5th grade teacher? I want my 5th grade teacher to see what I'm doing in 6th grade. Which is super cool, because I said to the parent, why didn't you respond to my email? And they said, oh, I just sent it to the 5th grade teacher. But we're really proud of that. And then we had another situation in Adam's class, where it was another student with a disability who showed over 100 points of growth from their fall STAR assessment to their winter. Now, that could be some effort pieces, also some belief and some confidence pieces, but that entire class got to celebrate that one student for earning over 100 points. He got his own little special celebration, in addition to the other students who have shown 30 points of growth or 50 points, but for that young man to have over 100 points of growth may not have ever had an opportunity to have been celebrated for his academic achievement, and he was glowing. But that kid is on fire now and ready to go, and is so proud of every test score that he has. Like, every class, he's like, look what I got on this test, and is so excited. So it's just been awesome to be able to have that. And they won't say this, but we did have a nerd party, like a nerd clusters for the kids because they were nerds, because they raised their test scores, and just something fun, you know, for sixth graders. They love that kind of stuff. It's really been just a great team to work with.
No, I don't have anything to add. I just think it's wonderful news, and you know, it's what can happen in a PLC, and especially when you do a deep dive into the data. And I love the fact that you realize that they were falling for the distraction. You know, I mean, I taught SAT and ACT prep for a long time, and that was always, you know, getting kids to recognize where that was not easy. So, well done.
Well, and we realized too that the move for sixth grade, like within the standards, is that you're moving to this idea of finding like the best answer for something, and so there is this kind of big push, and I think like giving students that language of like, no, I'm looking for the best answer, and I think like that came from that really sort of deep dive into like what is the level of rigor that these standards need to be taught to, and so I think like that process really helped us kind of crystallize what that needed to look like for kids.
Well, and instead of spending more time on how do you find evidence,
Now you got him talking.
but instead of us spending more time on how do you find evidence to support your claim, because they can do that, how do you pick the best claim, and how do you ignore the distractors, and what is that skill? 'Cause that's a very different skill to help teach students to learn than to pick the best evidence. And I would have thought as a teacher it was evidence. They couldn't figure out the evidence piece, and they can, according to our item analysis from that backwards design, but they couldn't pick the best claim, which then targeted our teaching even more.
I'll just say one more thing, like, this is a example of what's happening. There are other examples at Franklin. I know there are other strong PLTs that are getting similar results at Marshall and Edison, as well as Hank and Amanda and I work very closely together. While this is a story of moving Franklin forward, and we're very, very proud of this, I think it's also an indicator of where we're moving our middle schools in the city of Janesville. So we thank you for your time.
I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
Don't go anywhere.
All right, so.
Listen, so
You
I
passed
had
the
this
15, but this is on you.
official business before I came here, and I was like, I gotta get here. I can't miss this presentation.
I knew
So
you would like it.
Yes, I'm so glad. Thank you all for coming. Have you ever been here before, the four of you? This is your first time? You think so? Thank you so much. I know that you've had a busy day. I know you have too, but you get to come here often, Mr. Krieger. Thank you. It means a lot. We love getting to connect with our educators and our staff in the district, and the fact that you were, I think, probably willing to come today, right?
I didn't have to beg them, no.
Thank
They wanted to share.
you. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation. I have several things I want to reflect on and ask questions about. I'll try to go fast, okay?
Sure.
Because I know we have a lot to do tonight, and you probably would like to go home at some point. But I truly, don't be strangers. You know, reach out if there's ever a question for us. This is just wonderful. So I want us to reflect on the fact that this group of students probably didn't have wonders for very long in there, right? Like maybe a year. And I'm guessing that HMH probably aligns better with our Wonders curriculum. Yeah. So I think that's good for us to reflect on too, like the growth that we will see likely is going to really grow because we're on curriculum that's better aligned to what our tests are looking for and also with each other. So that's important. So some of these kids, likely there was a lot of gaps from what we were using before and the processes. So I think it's just, you know,
Yeah.
a good thing for us to all reflect on. And then one of the questions I was thinking was, how is this being, I guess, shared out with seventh grade? And it sounds like we're you know, going to extrapolate that out to everyone because you're doing amazing work.
Yeah, and the way that we built this backwards design process maintains that data from the CSAs. I mean, we'll have the standardized
Yeah.
assessment data. And as these kids move into seventh grade, now we start to look at what were they performing like on the sixth grade CSA. What were the concerns? What were the struggles? What were the celebrations? So those stories of this year will be a part of next year's PLT, and we just did not have that prior to this year. So yeah, there's still, how it's used is,
Absolutely, I think that's fantastic. And, you know, something I think that we really seen an increase is the celebration of middle school success, which it just wasn't a part of, I'm not saying it wasn't a part of your culture or the school district of Janesville, but just kind of societally. You know, elementary gets all of this big stuff, and then high school, there's big stuff. And I don't know that middle, we kind of forget about them sometimes. I mean, even at the board, we don't hear these successes. And so I think it's so important for us to understand the work that you're doing. It makes a big difference as we can see now the steps, you know, the work that's happened in elementary school, and we know the stuff with ACT, and now we're seeing this work also, and it just paints a really great picture. So we appreciate you. You mentioned the target group for the state report card. Do you want to just explain real quickly? That was my last thing. I think it's good for everyone to remember what the target group is.
right, so through the Next Path database and through the Wisconsin Forward Exam data, they recognize students who are in a high probability of being in a target group, a medium probability and a low probability. And because it's a little ambiguous, it's not like this student, yes, 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 yes. It's kind of based on who we have and how they performed. And so just going off and kind of sorting by, we want to look at the kids who have a high probability of being in that target group in ELA. And then through the magic of some spreadsheets, we can run and grab these averages. So that's, but because we count, like 5% is on overall achievement, and then I think probably close to over 60% of our report card score is in growth. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. It's very large when you combine ELA and math together. The target group is a mini report card within the report card. So if we get growth with the target group, they count there, they count here. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your success and wanting to come here. Thanks to all of you. We're really grateful.
You're welcome.
Keep it up. All right, moving on to 2025-2026 staffing plan overview. Mr. Scott Gardner.
I'm so excited that that I get to follow a presentation like that about staffing. But what I will tell you is this: the exciting part for me is it reminds me and everyone else of why we're here and what this staffing plan actually does when we're looking at it on paper. Honestly, it's people, it's programs, and it's students, and that's exactly what we're here for. So my job tonight is to give you a summary of what our 25-26 staffing will look like for next year. I've looked at these numbers 1,000 times, so if I go too fast, please just stop me. But I'm going to give you the highlights tonight. The first slide is teamwork. This plan is not put together in isolation. It used to be very, very much confined to one office. This is not the case and hasn't been for years. But I want you to look back over here. We've got several directors that are there that have worked very closely with me and others and principals to put this plan together. It's a thoughtful, well thought out plan. We've worked together for hours scheduling staff accordingly to making sure that we have the programming needs for students. So just know that this is me telling you the summary, but it's all of them that have helped us with that. So very important to note. One real quick mention I want to make is Lindsay Sales. She has been amazing when it comes to scheduling our special areas. She's very involved in that, and that's one of the things she takes pride in. As a coordinator, she works with teachers on a regular basis and wants to help advocate for them. So she works with me directly to help schedule those special area teachers specifically for this plan. And I just want to send her a special thank you. So as we look at our goals and objectives, when we earlier in November, I usually give you the anticipated kind of assumptions that we want for staffing. That includes board policy, TPRs. It includes maybe something different that we're going to do for this year. Well, this year, it's remained the same. We want to prioritize our staffing to support district goals. We want to make sure that we have reduced TPR in grades K through 2, grade 6, which is a transition year, and then grade 9, which is also a high school transition year, to help our students kind of feel more connected to both the school, the staff, and the curriculum, to allow for better learning. We've seen great success with that and have tried to do that throughout the years. With the help of Dan McCrae and his team, we can financially find the resources to do that to the best of our ability. So again, we'll continue to work on that. And then with our high school administrators, and also, well, all of them, but specifically high school, we try to provide them more autonomy to make decisions within where their staff are teaching in terms of sections and curriculum, which helps us, and it gives them that, they know the staff better than we do, and so it gives them that opportunity to do that. So now I'm just going to go right into it. We're going to go elementary, middle, high, and then we'll go to the other areas, special education and title staffing. But I'm just going to go very quickly through the overview. Overall, we see a decrease in elementary enrollment. It's a slight decrease, but we have an overall decrease of FTE of 3.0. That decrease in 3.0 is taken care of by attrition, so there are no specific people that are taken care of by, or affected, I should say, by this decrease. As you well know, we go through the sections for each school on a regular basis, and that is what we've come up with, and there's the student enrollment and the difference in FTE. So we're going from 196 to 193, and that's staffing plan to staffing plan. There are things that change in between, but we account staffing plan to staffing plan when it comes to that. This is the overall 24-25 and then 25-26 enrollment projected. You have that. I don't need to read it to you. There's nothing super amazing there. But those are our overall enrollments projected for next year. And as you know, we roll up the numbers. So whatever enrollment we have in kindergarten this year in seats, we roll up to first grade for next year for each school. That's how that works. P4J and enrollment for kindergarten is always kind of that fear factor, I guess. Fear factor, I call it, because we don't know how many kids are going to show up. And last year, we had a gap of about 50 where we just didn't know where they were coming from or if they were showing up. And we always have a little bit of that every year. We'll have the same thing this year, and I'll talk about P4J staffing here in a little bit. Again, these are the section changes. So you're looking at Adams, Harrison, Jefferson, and Madison are all down one section. That does impact, I will say, it says -1, but it does impact a building. So, like I said, these are all taken care of by attrition, people resigning or retiring. That said, it still impacts the building as it reduces the sections, which reduces the number of minutes for special areas and all different things in the schedules. So while it's a number there, it does impact a school significantly. Jackson in particular is going up one section. So just so you know, that's why it's a net of -3 decrease. This is our special area teacher staffing from year to year. That's the total FTE. I want to note that music is being assisted. Actually, some of our elementary music is helping out middle school, specifically at Edison, and I'll talk to you about that when we get to the middle school staffing piece. And then the Phi-Ed, we actually needed to increase a 0.1 just last week based on the scheduling. So moving into the middle school, we have a focus reduction of TPR in the core 6th grade. That's just a reminder. And as Kurt mentioned, the middle school principals work very well together, and so they're very, it's excellent to watch them work and schedule staff that they share, because I don't have to referee. They basically work it out on their own, and I'm perfect. We'll approve that. It's nice. It's very nice, actually. We try to keep staff whole. In this market where it's tight and it's hard to find people, we very rarely will give out a 0.7 contract or a 0.6 contract like we used to. I would say more 0.7 or 0.8. And what that means is if we have someone not working a full teaching load, we try to find ways to get them to a full contract, because you can't attract someone for a .8 anymore. They'll go to a different district. And so for that reason, we do try to make them whole through extra duties, supervisions, or study halls, you name it. We do that at the high school as well, so you'll hear some of that. We don't see any enrollment-based layoffs specifically for, now enrollment-driven layoffs, meaning numbers, specifically for core teachers at the middle school. And then we do see an overall increase at Edison. So you'll notice that our middle school is up .263, and that is for the Edison sixth grade. It's unusually large. It's about, I think it's 234, if I remember correctly, which is extremely large compared to where it has been. So in order to implement our reduced TPR in sixth grade, we had to add 2 core teachers to that, to the school, which then increased the special area minutes, or Phi-Ed art and music minutes. And so that's why you see the 2.63 increase. This is the enrollments. These are the different enrollments for Edison, Franklin, and Marshall for next year as projected. As you can see, Edison is up quite a bit, as is Franklin, but it's not necessarily directly impacted in sixth grade. These are the number of staff that we have. As you can see, Edison's up. Franklin's up, or actually Franklin's down. Again, it just depends on where the staff fall, where the students fall, I should say. Moving into high school, am I going too fast? All right, good, all right. High school highlights, again, we go based on the TPR formula. Superintendent Holzman, myself, Chris Mendenwalt, I'll meet with the high school principals to work on a formula that was developed by Mr. Holzman to keep our scheduling extreme. It's very tight at the high schools. It used to be a little looser. It's very tight, so we have very few people who don't have a full schedule at the high school. If they don't have a full schedule, as I said, we give them a supervision, like a study hall. There's some extra work that, I don't know, I'd just say study hall. There's supervisions that they do, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't need to get into those details. We do see a 1 enrollment-driven reduction at the high school, and that was due to certification and numbers. So just so you know, there is a one person reduction, and we weren't able to recover that through attrition. So just so you're aware. So there is an overall decrease in staff of 1.05, give or take, but that's exactly what it is. High school enrollment, you can see we're down, but as I tell you that, and we're only down 1, you might see that specific, that seems like a large number, right? It's over 100 and, I don't have that memorized, but 133 and 25, 158 kids we're down. The reason we can say we're only down 1 is because it's how the students fall in the schedules. And again, we want to make sure our teachers are busy, and I can guarantee you that they are scheduled as tight as they ever have been in terms of workload, teaching load. So just know that we're working very diligently on that, and Chris Mendenwald has worked wonders with those the high school principals as well as Mr. Holzman. So we're really trying to continue to work with them to schedule that correctly. These are the specific sections for Craig High School. Just as you know, the 1 reduction we talked about is in that slide. That particular teacher has been informed. We know about those things, so I just wanted to let you know that. These are the sections. These are the supervisions. I will say this, for both Craig and Parker, this slide right in particular is going to be fluid. So this is what we know it to be right now. Things change over the summer and schedules change over the summer. Things happen. So while this is what I can report to you now, that's probably not what it'll be come fall. It'll change or a little bit later based on teacher schedules and things that happen. Whether we have increased student enrollment or decreased student enrollment in given sections, I just want you to be, I want to be very transparent that this number is what we know as it is now. Yes.
Real quick while you're here, can you talk through travel?
So the 6.5 travel is essentially shared staff. And so it should be 7. I don't know why it says 6.5, but ultimately 7 people are traveling to share between the high school and middle school from Craig. I confirmed that the other day. I talked to Jolene Toronis this afternoon regarding Parker's travel, so.
3 due now and then 7.
This year, yeah, and for next year, we have, for all year, we're looking at 7 travels. Mhm. Again, trying to share and use staff efficiently. These are the Parker sections. Go through that. There's no big highlights there. This again is another fluid slide, the supervision, the travel, and overloads. Typically, overloads may change based on student signups and such. Charter school staffing it's down. The student count is down 8. So we're seeing a very neutral change to staffing. What I will say is that AVA, Arise, that enrollment fluctuates, and we've seen a steady increase in that enrollment. So I would predict that we would probably have some overloads added to the charter staffing and/or actually limited term contracts go out to teachers next year to help serve our kids. So just so you know that. I would say also that we do meet with our charter school principals to ask them for their feedback and what they need. Again, we try to meet their needs as necessary. This is the enrollments. We have, like I said, 8 kids down. And the FTE. It's not changed for next year. P4J, this is one sentence. Yes,
Instead of just talking to my
yeah.
peer commissioner, colleague, for the charter school enrollment, we've often heard at school board meetings that Rock River has a waiting list, so then it's 312 and 24, 25, but then down to 284 and 25, 26. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so historically, Rock River Charter School has started the year at about 284. That'll go up once we get all the sections going, and then they have kids coming in throughout the year. I don't remember the exact timelines where they have kids coming in, but they also graduate kids during the year.
Like during the year? That's what I
Yes, so
thought.
it's
Okay.
kind of a moving target.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
You bet. So let's go back. P4J staffing. So I talked to Angela Lynch again today. The staffing remains the same. I actually had a bullet on there, but I wanted to be accurate, so I took it off just to be safe. I did confirm with her, though, that P4J enrollment right now, as it stands today, is 44 students. We're 44 students less than we were at this same time last year, but we started enrollment 2 weeks later, so this year. So we're kind of at a 2-week lag. And again, it's kind of a unpredictable number, but I wanted you to be aware of that. So right now, the staffing is remaining the same. We don't anticipate major changes. These are just the site recommendations, 7 and 7. Paraprofessional recommendations are the same. And then this goes into the paraprofessional staffing. We have a formula, 2.25 minutes per student for each school. So we adjust that every year as the enrollment changes. There are some significant changes. For example, you see Adams is down an hour and 30 minutes. And then we have some that go up like a half hour. You look at Jackson. So that's just what that chart represents. Same here for the middle schools. You see Edison and Franklin up. Craig and Parker are down, as well as Marshall's to half hour. So, and we work with the principals to schedule those every year. This is one that I want to talk very briefly about. You have a graph that Mr. Holzman has and I have worked on, talked about, and put together. So one of the things that you'll see here is a net increase. I'm giving you the enrollment-driven staffing plan. And so when I talk about enrollment-driven, most of the time I'm talking about all the schools and general enrollment-driven staffing plan. When we start talking about special education, EL, and title services, then we look at there's other funding sources there for these things. So in particular here for special education, we thought it was important for you to look at this. The first graph shows that our general student enrollment over 5 years has gone down roughly 200 kids or more, right? As you can see, this graph here, if all that's our general enrollment's down about 200 kids. But if you look at that green line, that represents our special education enrollment. And as you can see, that has increased about 200 kids. So what we're seeing is our general enrollment's going down, but our special education enrollment is going up. And based on the enrollment-driven staffing plan, that's why you're seeing an increase in the number of staff that we're adding to our special education staff. And that is something that we have to do. It's a state mandate, it's law, that we need to make sure we provide for those needs and programming needs. And again, Kim Pierenboom is on top of all of those different things. There's thousands of services that we provide every year to kids, and thousands of kids over 1,000 kids that we provide services for. So that's why you're going to see an increase in the overall special education ask for next year. Title I is going to remain status quo. In talking with Dan McCrae, we decided in general, and based on his recommendation as well, with the unknowns of where the federal government is for federal funding, we're going to maintain staffing, title staffing as is for this next year, pending what might come in the future. We don't know, so we're just going to keep it status quo. EL staffing, there has been an increase specifically at the high school needs. We're seeing an increase in the needs for our EL students, English learner students. So we're seeing a 15 FTE at our elementary, and secondary's gone up to 16. So it's an increase, overall net increase of 1.0. No, that's just the total staff. It's a net increase. We had 30 this year. We're going to 31 next year. Thank you. And then this is just the summary of what I just told you. So if you add up all the pluses and the minuses, if you look at that far right corner, we're up next year overall a total of 5.25 FTE. And just so you know, kind of a rough estimate of what we consider an FTE for teachers is about $90,000. So if you multiply that times 5, I would say roughly $500,000 more in expenditure on staffing just based on the enrollment-driven plan that we follow every year. Just as a reminder, we have the enrollment staffing plan, and then we have the plan that isn't enrollment driven, and we still have those needs as well. We have lots of staff that support our kids that don't do it necessarily as a teacher in a section. They actually are school counselors, dean of students, program coordinators, school psychs, social workers, reading specialists, and innovation specialists. It's important that we remind you that there is that whole other part of the staffing plan that we continue to look at to help support our kids, just so you know that they're part of that as well. So the staffing plan will be recommended tomorrow night for your approval. Just looking to see if you have any questions for me right now.
So I'm interested in the staffing at the kindergarten level. Is our TPR still for kindergarten? What is that?
So we're actually trying to get it 1 to 20, but we watch it if it goes to about 22. And that is kudos to Superintendent Holzman as we've watched that over the last 3 years or so.
Okay.
The problem we have, or I guess it's not a problem, but what we need to make sure we can try to do is predict where those kindergarten students that we don't know are going to show up, where they're going to show up. And we don't know. It's kind of a moving target. So we may, and then that's why we ask you for adjustments as necessary, because that's exactly what, that's an example of what we might need it for. Like, hey, we need to add a section to Adams because we have way more students showing up at Adams than we thought.
Right.
So.
And the growth in special ed services, is that across the board? Is it in one area of, like middle or elementary school, or?
I would defer to Kim to speak to that. I don't have that detail.
So specifically for next year, we are looking at adding 2 cross-categorical positions at Franklin, as well as 2 cross-categorical positions at Edison. Both of those schools have 18 more incoming sixth graders at Franklin, and then 17 more incoming sixth graders at Edison as well, and we try to staff at about a 1-to-12 ratio, and that's what we would be starting with. That would include move-ins that could come in and/or anyone that may be evaluated and qualify during the school year. The other interesting point to take into consideration is that next year will be the first year that Milton and Edgerton are closing their open enrollment for special ed. They've always had an open door policy, and right now we have about 50 students between those 2 districts that are actually Janesville residents. So as that door starts to close and they do not accept students in, those are students we're gonna have to absorb somewhere within the district. They are keeping students that are currently identified as special education, but as students try to apply and/or if they qualify, they may send them back to us, so. In addition, our needs of our students are growing astronomically, as they are everywhere. I talked to the director in Edgerton this morning, and he said he's been doing this for 20 years and has not seen needs like this. We are almost already full in early childhood self-contained, which is our program for our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And so with those needs, we are adding a intellectual disability program, so a program for students with the most cognitive disabilities at Kennedy. We currently have a program at Harrison and at Lincoln, and we have 2 staff members there, but this year they were each sitting at about 18 kids apiece with those 2 teachers, and we will be looking to fill the program at Kennedy. And we're adding a program back at Edison because Franklin and Marshall are already full for next year, and we have a cluster of 6 students coming out of Lincoln, which feeds into Edison, and Edison is their home area. So either way, we would have been looking to add a position to help support at Marshall and Franklin, so it just made sense to add that position so students can stay in their path. And then Jackson and Wilson are seeing a huge influx of students coming out of P4J early childhood into kindergarten, so we are gonna get creative and do a split there. And then Craig is also up 11 students next year, and we'll be adding a position.
Thank you.
So how easy is it to attract special education teachers then with 8 FTEs?
So we started early with our postings, and we've had pretty good luck so far. We also did something unique this year, working with Superintendent Holzman and then Scott, is we tried to grab our student teachers who are student teaching in special education and offered them conditional offers and guaranteed them a position once we got staffing done, and we've been able to, they've already gotten their offer, they'll get a placement within the next week as to where they're going to be going. And so part of it is just being aggressive, recruiting. I know like Wilson recruited from Beloit and was able to obtain some staffing there. And part of it is just by word of mouth and people who have come from other districts and telling their friends that, hey, this is a great place to work. And it's a great community to be in, and people migrating over, and we've really gotten a lot of quality candidates with that.
And to piggyback off of that, it's great that it's a great place to work, and getting that out in the community. However, with those 2 districts specifically closing their open enrollment, do we have a lot of students that are special education that open enroll to us from other districts because of the education that we provide in that specific area?
So we close our special education for open enrollment as well. We have for as long as I've been here. The only thing we generally leave open is speech and language only students, just because it is so hard at times to hire, and our numbers are already high to take in those costs. And really, we would not be gaining anything financially. Most of the students who apply to come in cost a lot of money to serve because they have a lot of high needs. So, the students we do have who are special education, who are open enrolled in, many of them were already with us. And though we could choose to say you need to go back to your home district, it's just not the right thing to do. And so we allow them to stay. In many cases, some of the students are not being identified till maybe like 3rd or 4th grade because they have a specific learning disability and they've been with us since kindergarten and probably have siblings in the district, and the domino effect continues down. The only time we have been revoking is if they are habitually truant and aren't meeting that criteria, then we would revoke the open enrollment.
Well, thank you both. I think, are you all done with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on what she said, I'm meeting with 4 of our student teachers that we had this year for that specific purpose of special ed. So that's just to speak to the aggressiveness that we need to be at, frankly. It's a good question. I am complete with my presentation. Any other questions?
Awesome, no, thank you. Thanks for going over this with all of us and everyone that worked on it. We know that it's a huge, tremendous work of art, and that is constantly evolving, but we appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Garner. Oh, Michelle has a question.
Sorry, in a recent school visit that Liz and I did, it was brought up that anyway, I know funding is not unlimited, but any way to consider or think about like a dean at the elementaries to give the principals a little bit more support?
So those types of requests, we actually, directors keep a list. We have a list of that, and one of elementary dean is on the list to consider. But that is one of those, as I put on the slide there, it's one of those positions that is outside of the enrollment driven and would take a fiscal commitment. So we have to look at that as a director team. You bet.
Thanks for that, Michelle. I feel like a special ed update going over some of these changes would be great for a future PPC. I'm just thinking like there's a lot. So just keep that in mind. All right, moving on to benefits renewal. Jamie Brown, thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning. Okay, we'll go this way. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, it is that time of year again, and we will be up discussing the School District of Janesville benefit renewal. This year was a year again, and so I just need to throw some kudos to some colleagues for seriously helping me get through this renewal. Scott Garner, Brianna Parker, Dan McCray, Superintendent Holzman, and Matt Sylvester Knutson. Did I say Brianna Parker? Okay, Brianna Parker. So she helped me really, really get through a lot of this. So thank you to that. So tonight we will be talking about what our goals for renewal were, the voluntary dental and health insurance renewal, and then we'll have some time for some questions. So our goals for renewal this year. First up, we wanted minimal disruption for staff. So whatever we were going to offer, we wanted it to be the least amount of disruption. An additional goal was we wanted to continue our partnerships with the Benefits Advisory Committee and the JEA. I did met with the JEA last week and went over this presentation. In addition to that, the week prior, I met with the Benefits Advisory Committee and went over the renewal with them. And I have a follow-up meeting on April 16th with those teams to kind of just come back and talk about things. The district also wants to continue providing a comprehensive health insurance plan that will align with our fiscal objectives that support our district's mission. And you can see we have a target date to become self-funded. Through this year's renewal, we were able to kind of get that date kind of narrowed down, and we feel that July of 2027 will be the best time for the district to take that step forward. So first, we'll talk about the benefit, voluntary benefit renewal. Our vision and our accident and critical illness offered by Emeritus and MetLife will not see an increase this year, nor any plan design change. Our Lincoln Financial line of voluntary benefits include the district-paid life insurance, voluntary life insurance, short and long-term disability. We are currently still in negotiations regarding those renewals. In 2018, we did go to Lincoln, and we have not received an increase since 2018. So I am anticipating some sort of a slight increase to the voluntary benefits. Next up, for our dental renewal, there is a 3% increase. The change to the employees' cost to all of the employees combined will be just around $4,000 for the year. The district will have an increase of approximately $30,000 for the year for that increase in dental. And again, there is no plan design change.
Essentially, we're just passing that 3% along. Doing this math right, yeah. Where our cost goes up 3%.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, any question on the voluntary or dental? Okay. So over the past year, I've been up here providing updates regarding, so some of this information will probably sound very familiar, but I just wanted to touch briefly on 2025 national healthcare cost trends. One of them being inflation. Everything across the board is increasing approximately 5 to 7%. In addition to that, chronic health conditions are a huge cost for healthcare spend. That would include chronic illnesses as well as mental health. Specialty drugs, including biologics, which is medication created from living organisms. And as we advance in technology, that also increases the cost of care. GLP-1 drugs, they are known to help assist with type 2 diabetes. The cost of that drug is over approximately $1,000 per month, and it's not one that you would generally get off of, right? It would just be a continuous use, okay? Industry developments, gene therapy, surgical robots, kind of go along with the specialty drugs with the increased costs. And then the aging population. Healthcare for seniors is approximately 2.5 times higher than the working age adults. Wanted to provide you with where our current enrollment sits. As you can see, we have approximately 80% of our subscribers enrolled in the Mercy plan. And we have about 20% enrolled in Dean. Approximately 12 of those employees are enrolled in the PPO, whether that's because they're outside of the, carrier's location, maybe they're too far out, so they do require them to be in the PPO. In addition to that, we do have a couple of retirees who are out of the area who are also enrolled in the PPO. So this next slide is going to be an overview of our year-over-year enrollment, as well as the renewal rates that we have received from the carrier since 2020. So in 2020, you can see that between Mercy and Dean, we received single-digit increases, and we were at about a 50-50 rate. 2021, same kind of split. In 2022 is where we start to see the gap spread. And that is because that's when we first started receiving the double-digit increases from the health insurance carriers. So we had that first one in 2022. 2023, we saw a drastic increase, which caused about 25% of staff members to migrate to Mercy. In addition, we had the 18 and the 21.9 last year as well, which again created another migration over to Mercy. which where we are sitting this year, again, is still at that 80-20. Want to just provide you with a quick update as to what the 24-25 plan design is. For a single enrollee, deductible is $3,200. The district contributes $800 for a net exposure of $2,400. Family plan is $64. The district contributes $1,600 with a net exposure for $4,800 for a family. While we said minimal changes to our plan, one thing that we do have to increase is the deductible. In order for our plan to remain a high deductible health plan and remain eligible for the HSA, we did have to increase the deductible. For single, it was increased by $100, and for a family, it will be increased by $200. Is there any questions on that? Want to provide you with an overview of what the district is spending for health insurance in a year. For our current active staff, just for the premium that we pay to Dean and Mercy, we pay approximately $12.1 million. We have the Family Advantage Health Plan, which costs the district approximately $1.1 million. The HSA contributions from the district for active staff is $1.2 million. Our retirees, for their contribution and, for our contribution and their HSA seating is $1 million for a total of $15.4. Any questions?
So at the bottom of that slide, it said district budget increase is 1.3. That's estimated for next fiscal?
For,
Is this
for-
24, 25?
yep, and then so for 25, 26, we have a 1.3 estimated
Okay.
budget increase.
Thank you.
Okay, so what did we keep in our mind as we went through renewal? I will say that this is not in any particular order except for alphabetical. I just want to make that very clear. Not one is more important than the other. So things that we kept in the back of our mind was access to health care, the budget, our contribution structure, dual choice, and then employee satisfaction. This was our initial health insurance renewal. Dean came in with a 21.9% increase. Mercy came in at 9.9. In addition to that, Mercy will provide us with a rate cap for the 26-27 school year of 11.9%. Okay? If we were to renew as is, employees would see a $660,000 increase. $140,000 of that would be for Mercy, and $520,000 of that would be for Dean. The district will have a $1.2 million increase, and that is an estimation. As tiers change, people may enroll in the FAHP, whatever that may be. That is our estimated increase. This slide will show the 24-25 employee monthly contribution. It will also show if we were to renew as is, the 25-26 employee monthly contribution, as well as the monthly increase. I want to provide just kind of an overview on how this is split. So currently in the 24-25 school year, for a person enrolled in the family plan in Mercy, the district contributes just over $20,000 for their health insurance annually. The employee contributes almost $3,000. With the estimated increase, The district's contributions will increase to just over 22,000, and the employee's annual contribution will just be over 3,000. So if you can remember, a couple slides ago, I said that our deductible for family would have to increase, $200. So in the Mercy family situation, with the premium increase and with the deductible increase, someone enrolled in the Mercy family would have an increase of almost $500 for the year. Okay. So we started looking at things that we could see if there were any alternatives. We looked at alternative carriers, we looked into HRAs, self-funded, we looked at adjusting the contribution structure, and we're also looking at a total takeover. For our alternative carriers, Anthem, Quartz, and United Healthcare declined to quote because they are uncompetitive. We also went back out to the state plan, and the ETF will be 7% over our budget and would require a 3-year commitment. Also, based upon our usage, we could get a potential surcharge. If you may recall, in previous meetings, I have expressed how our medical loss ratio is high. So I would anticipate, in addition to a 7% increase, surcharges. We looked at a health reimbursement account. This is something that is very similar to a health savings account. It just doesn't have as many of the good benefits for the employees. And what I mean by that is the employee can't contribute to it. They can't invest it. They're not getting a triple tax savings from it. People like their HSAs. They like to be able to have that freedom to kind of hold on to it for when they need it. So based upon those items, we have determined that switching to a health reimbursement account would not be beneficial for our staff. So then we looked at self-funded, okay? That gap is getting smaller and smaller from being fully insured and being self-funded. If we made no adjustments to the plan, which means not implementing any plan management or anything like that, we would see a $4 million increase, okay? Two things that we have to really take into consideration when we go to self-funded is the network and our pharmacy benefit manager. So for our network, right now we are Dean and Mercy. The district will have to select an anchor network, okay? We will go down to a more narrow network. Not 100% sure of what that looks like right now. But if we were to keep it open to both networks, we do just know that right off the bat, Dean is 20% higher than Mercy, that it would not be financially responsible of us to do that. In addition, we would have to look at a pharmacy benefit manager. So what we would essentially be doing is guiding, helping, assisting employees with pharmacies and getting their prescription. So what I mean by that is maybe you are prescribed a specific medication, but is there a generic that you can try first that's going to do the same exact thing, but maybe costs half as much, okay? We are going to have a target date, a goal date of July of 2027 to transition our district to self-funded. That's a long runway, and we need that runway to make sure that when we implement it, we're implementing it correctly, and we're implementing everything that we need to make sure that it's successful. We're gonna have good years, we're gonna have bad years when it comes to self-funded, but the goal is to hopefully even that out, okay? You can see there also that we have some interactive plan management items that we could initiate. I'm not saying that we will do all of these, and it may even be a layered approach as we go on, but biometrics and direct primary care, chronic condition management and care navigation, those kinds of things. So we're getting there, it's just, we're not there quite yet. One of the other options that we looked at was adjusting the contribution model. So currently, the district pays 88% of the lowest cost plan. And I will say that the state plan also runs the same type of 88%. So we looked at two different ways. One was adjusting the percentage split between district and staff. So what I mean by that is right now we're 88-12. Maybe we go to 88-13 or 85-15. How would that look, right? What would we be able to move the needle enough on those monthly premiums for staff? And what we found was that we're going to increase the cost for Mercy subscribers while decreasing the cost for Dean. So we went on and kind of kept looking. So then we looked, well, what if we just pay 88% of both? And that would cost the district over $500,000 in added costs in order for us to be able to do that. And that would be only if everything remained the same. And when I say that, I mean, number one, people migrated off of Mercy and went to Dean because of the price. And now if we decrease it, we're gonna see migration back, right? So we're gonna be paying more for the Dean premium in general, just from the migration. So for us to be able to continuously have $500,000 in increased cost is just not something that the district can sustain financially for the future. Any questions on adjusting the contribution structure? Okay. We are also out, we asked Dean and Mercy to send us a offer for total takeover. Ideally, you know, we want dual choice. We want our employees to have options. As we move along, I just don't know if that will always be the case. Okay, so we are looking. They do have a drop deadline date of April 11th to provide us with a offer. It would have to be substantial in order for the district to do that this year. I would also remind you that we are at an 80-20 enrollment, and Dean does have the right to, once we get below a 20% enrollment, they do reserve the right to not provide us an offer the following year. So I just want everybody to keep that in the back of their minds. Okay. Should the district decide to go with a total takeover, we will have a transition of care plan. We've kind of been doing it the past 2 years for those who have switched from Dean to Mercy. So we would just kind of get that going back up, and obviously we would notify staff members with all of that information as well. So just to kind of recap, alternative carriers is something we looked at that we would not recommend. The health savings account or the switching to the HRA is not something that would be recommended. Self-funded is down the road yet. At this time, we would not like to adjust the contribution structure. So the last two that we are looking at would be a total takeover. And again, the consideration would be with Mercy as our anchor provider, but it has to be substantial. If not, then the administrative recommendation would be to renew as is.